You are Black in the Green Room with me, your host, Keith Underwood. And this is your spot for real talk about entertainment with entertainers, creatives, and showbiz professionals. Today, I'm joined by two groundbreaking storytellers, Deondray Gossfield and Quincy LeNear-Gossfield, an award-winning creative duo whose work has pushed boundaries and expanded representation in film and television. From their acclaimed series, The DL Chronicles, to their recent contributions on Showtime's The Shy, they continue to redefine the landscape of Black queer storytelling while uplifting voices too often left out of the conversation. I'm excited to dive into their journey, their partnership, and what's next. Quincy, Deondray, welcome to the room.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank
Look,
you,
I'm taking
Keith.
you with me everywhere I go. That was an amazing intro.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I had to do it proper for you two. So,
Thank you.
yeah. How you guys been?
We've been great.
We're good. Yeah,
Good, good, good.
it's a
I've
beautiful journey.
always been curious. How did the two of you first meet?
Used to
Well,
page
we,
911. I'm just
you
kidding.
see, so silly. We were joking before we began. We said we met during the beeper age. Back in the day when you had to send a little code with text using numbers in a pager, and then you had to go and find a payphone and put a quarter in it to call the other
Right.
person back if you were out in the streets. You know.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, we
W-
met in '96. I was fresh off the boat from Chicago, new import to Los Angeles, pursuing an acting career. And my roommate at the time met DeAndre's best buddy from college, who was also a writer. And they became writing partners. And his friend would always be at my house telling me, "Man, you remind me a lot of my boy. He's an
Wow.
actor too. You guys should meet." We were both in the closet at the time, so no one, it wasn't like a romantic suggestion. It was just like, hey, you're trying to break into this industry. You have a lot of similarities to my friend. He's an actor. He's been working for a while. Maybe you guys should like connect. So eventually, he introduced us, and we worked together as actors in a short film that our friends wrote and directed, and that's how we met, and some
And it,
sparks.
no, tell the truth. When I
You
first
tell
met
the
him,
truth.
he paid me no mind. Now listen, I mean our friends didn't know we were, gay, but they did introduce us as like boys to collaborate. But when I
Hmm.
met Quincy, I was immediately smitten, but I had no idea what his deal was. But I tried to figure it out, and I got this. We met at a in Leimert Park. There was this old, independent filmmakers would get together at Doughboy's Dozens. Rest his soul. Doughboy
Hmm.
used to
Doughboy,
host these,
yeah.
independent Black filmmakers in Leimert Park, and I was a part of one of these films. And Quincy came to see the screening that my friend Freddie Gutierrez directed. And so I met Quincy. This is the guy I had been hearing the same thing about. You got to know him. This is the dude. He's just like you. And I saw him and I was like, whoa. And I was like, oh, he's kind of cute, but I couldn't say anything. So I'm trying to figure him out. I'm trying to have small talk. So I go up to him at this screening and I'm like, hey, how you doing, DeAndre? He's like, oh yeah, yeah, nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. Really like I would say dismissive, but like, unconcerned. And I was like, oh, I was kind of excited to meet you. You let me
I'm
tell my
I'm
version. Let me tell my
concerned.
version. And then he says, so I was trying to find something to say. I was like, Quincy, there's so hey man, they got because he was just kind of standing around quiet. He had on his little dashiki. He was very Afrocentric at the time, just a serious Chicago poet and super, militant. And so I was like, and I saw him just kind of, taking the room in. And I thought, oh, let me break the ice. Hey, they got free food back there. He's like, yeah, 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 I saw. And he just kept looking. I was like, so I was immediately like, forget it. I don't even know if I could be friends with this guy. He seems completely impenetrable. So it was months later, we were doing a short film with the same friends that were collaborating together, and it was a spoof on the New Edition.
Mm.
And I had to get special makeup done because I was playing, and I always forget which New Edition I was playing, but they had to remove my eyebrows because the guy that I was playing had hardly any. So
Mm.
Quincy is also a man of many trades. He's a special makeup artist, special effects makeup artist. So he had to do my makeup, and he claims that while I was in his chair, I gave him vibes, but honestly, I had completely moved on from that ship. But he says I gave him vibes, and then he's about to do the thing. He does this every time.
Was I lying, Keith? Was I lying?
Hey, I could. It sounds like there was a bunch of truth in both of your stories. So you guys have been trailblazers in telling authentic Black queer stories on screen. Can you each share with me the first time you were drawn to storytelling and as your career path?
Wow. That's a heavy title, and I have to learn how to honor and accept that and be appreciative of it. But honestly, part of me feels like we were just artists who had stories to tell, and there was no one telling those stories. I never thought of the path as being a trailblazer. I guess that's something that happens in retrospect.
Hmm.
But I think for me, storytelling started really, really young. My family were avid movie, television watchers. It was just one of our pastimes. We went to the movies all the time, and when video stores came about, before there was a Blockbuster, when there were just the mom and pop shops, me and my uncle would just go to 79th Street Video Store in Chicago, and we'd rent 3 movies at a time, up to 5 movies sometimes. And we come home and we watch these movies as a family. So I was always inundated with like storytelling as far as movies were concerned. And I also was a visual artist and a poet and a writer. So I
Mm.
think it just was naturally something that I did. And when I got my first camera, I had an uncle who was a famous photographer in Chicago. So I was always fascinated being at Russell Studios, which was his studio, looking at like the cameras and the backdrops and the lighting. He did still photography, however, but I was still just fascinated by like the world that he worked in and the equipment. I'm a techie, I'm a camera junkie. And I think all of those things probably contributed to my love for this field. And
Mm.
then I think when my dad bought me my first home video camera, put it on my shoulder, I was that kid just shooting everything, shooting every family event. And then I started taking the neighborhood kids and my cousins and making soap operas and short films and dressing the kids up in grandma's wigs and old clothes that we found in the basement. Like we would just put on these little productions. And so I did that just because I loved it as a child. But I think when I moved to LA, that was not what I came to do. I came to be an actor because I also,
Mm.
always had a desire to be in front of the camera, but I was incredibly bashful and shy. And so that was a part of me kind of exercising that unmet desire from being so shy and bashful throughout most of my childhood, to now be like on stage and in front of camera really, really helped me kind of come into myself. And then I think I would say the thing that really what is the deciding factor, as our mentor Phil Wilson used to say all the
Mm.
time. The deciding factor for me, I think, was when I PA'd on a film called Solstice.
Mm.
I was a background actor in this independent film in Chicago. It was my first time being on a film set, and I was just, again, that fascination that I remembered and that feeling that I had as a kid being in my uncle's studio, being on a set. It was in the winter, January, February in Chicago, off the lake at night shooting. I was freezing, I was frostbitten, but there was no place like I could imagine being every day. And so I asked if I could come back to that set, um, just to observe. And I ended up meeting the director and talking to him, and he invited me back to, just to look, just a look see. And while I was there, I started volunteering. I saw people needed help. It's like, hey, you need any help grabbing this crate or moving this box or whatever. I
Mm,
just wanted to be of service. And they hired me as a production assistant. So that became my first um, job in the industry as a production assistant. And when I tell you, I was exhausted, I was cold, all of the things, but I was alive. It just really,
mm,
really, really made me feel alive. And so I think after that, I shadowed on the movie Love Jones, that
mm,
my friend Ted Witcher wrote and directed. And just being in the space of creativity and television and film, mostly film at that time, just fed me. It fed me. So I decided to move to LA, to be in front of the camera, not knowing that eventually I would, transition back to where it all started.
absolutely. What about for you,
For
DeAndre?
for me, I think it sort of happened naturally. I think I have a gut instinct to tell story because of my mom.
Mm,
I have a little bit of my dad's genes too. He's a musician, and I didn't know him until I was much later in life. I didn't even know much about him, but he had a musicianship that in my family on my dad's side was really strong in music. So
And your
this thing.
grandfather was an actor.
And my grandfather was an
mm,
actor. All this stuff I didn't know, but it was just sort of in me naturally. And my mom is a natural performer. I think if I weren't doing this, if she had found her path to it, she'd be doing it first. And I think she
mm.
still wants to. But my
You'll
mom
have to
exposed
put
me
her
to.
in something.
Yeah, I have already. She has a cameo in DL Chronicles. She's the voice of one of the boys' mothers. I don't think a lot of people know that, but she was great. But she exposed me to a lot of stuff. Arts, music, poetry, books. That was my mother exposed me and my little sister to all of that. And one time, one summer, she took me to see E.T. At a
Mm,
local theater in LA. We lived in South Central LA. We were very poor, but my mother always found a way to take us to the movies. And one of the movies that really did something for me was E.T. I sat in that theater and I was mesmerized. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do something like that. I didn't know if I wanted to
mhm,
act. I didn't know if I wanted to direct. I didn't know what I wanted. I wanted to move people like that movie moved me. It really set on my chest, and
mm,
to this day. And so, I started asking my mom, like, can I do this? Can I? And there wasn't a lot of outlets where we lived. My sister was in dance class, but there wasn't a lot of like theater drama stuff. So she heard me, but she just did things like she would give me a tape recorder and say, "Hey, sing into that or do some poetry into that." And that was her way of like giving me some tools. But so I took matter into my own hands and I started writing my own little stuff.
mm.
And so I would like put my little sister in it, my neighbors in it. So I went around as a kid, just like Quincy said, making these little skits and plays. And I love that my neighborhood didn't like think I was weird. They like wanted to be in it. So I had a bunch of neighborhood kids in my backyard wanted to be in these little fake skits that we would do, in my backyard. My sister, poor thing, she was my biggest star. So everything
Right.
I wrote, I put it on her, whether she wanted to or not. I'm sorry, Tawana. But so that was sort of my first introduction into like the arts, and I just kind of did it naturally. And then I'd say when I got to high school, I went to an all-white high school, and they were doing the production of Hair, and there wasn't enough black kids in the in the play. So
Mhm.
I had one black friend that was in the play that was like recruiting kids around school, going, "Hey, you guys could probably be in this play easily because there's no black people."
They couldn't get enough
They
afros.
couldn't get enough afros. So he went around the
Right.
school and he asked, and it was so funny because I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I was so afraid. So I went and I auditioned, and my drama teacher after the audition told me, you're really an actor. And I thought,
Mm.
am I? And he's like, yeah, yeah. And this is a white high school teacher, and he took me under his wing, and he taught me everything about drama and soliloquies and plays, and he started putting me into these competitions around California to be, these drama competitions that mostly only white kids participated in, and he would purposely cast me in traditionally white roles, like casting me
Mm,
as Romeo and Romeo and Juliet.
mm,
And we our school never had been on the map, and we started winning these awards because of these little skits I was in competitions in. And that's when I started to understand this is something that I can pursue. And he told me that. He's like,
mm,
this is something you should go after. You've got something. So that took me all the way through college. I majored in theater, but dropped out because I got a part in Sister Act 2 as a and so that's what my pursuit was. I was determined to be an actor, and then I met Quincy, and then we were both determined to be actors, and started to realize we weren't getting the parts that was really going to propel our careers.
mm,
And so we started making these little things to kind of showcase ourselves as actors, not realizing we were like honing in on our skills as directors.
mhm.
And it took some of those good friends that we were talking about earlier that said to us, hey, have you guys ever thought about directing? Because I'm in school for this, and some of my classmates are not this good. And we were like,
Right.
no, we want to be actors. I don't know what that director, I don't know what that is. I'm a thespian. And
Right.
so that eventually, finally we listened, and one of our first shorts together, we submitted to a digital film festival for Showtime, which is funny, full 360, working for Showtime again. But one of our first films we submitted to Showtime, and it was a digital film festival, and we won $10,000 for a short film we paid $10 to make. And I think that was the
Wow.
thing that said, okay, yeah, maybe this is something you should be pursuing. So we've been
The
doing it ever
universe was
since.
like, hey,
Hello,
trying
guys.
to, yeah, yeah, sometimes you gotta listen, right?
That's right.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta
Absolutely.
listen.
Yeah, DeAndre, you touched on it a little bit, and this is for both of you. How did your personal journeys, individually and as a couple, shape the creative lens that you bring to your projects?
Oh, well, so Quincy and I were in the closet when we said that already, when we started dating. And we were noticing that there was this dearth of like black cinema and that's straight to DVD. And we noticed there was a dearth of gay cinema straight to DVD. And we thought, there's nobody telling the intersectionality of those
Mm,
two stories. Nobody's telling our story. And I think one of the things that really majorly put us in motion was we saw an episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show that featured J.L. King. At the time, he had a New York Times best-selling book called On the Low or On the Down Low. I can't remember which.
hmm
Try to forget.
Mm.
But and it was this very one-sided approach to the DL. And Quincy and I were in the closet, but we didn't have girlfriends, we didn't have HIV, we weren't spreading a
hmm
disease. We were just closeted for personal reasons, personal
hmm
religious reasons, personal familial reasons. And so we were wondering, why isn't anybody telling the diaspora of reasons
mm
that men fervently feel they cannot come out of the closet for fear of
Specifically men of
life and
color.
limb, specifically men of color. And that sort of propelled us to, like, we're mad at the TV. We're like, wait, we're filmmakers, we're actors. Maybe we should address this. And so, but we're still deathly afraid of it because we're not ready to be out of the closet. So how are we going to talk about the closet, the proverbial closet, or the
mm
proverbial down low, expose it in a way that gets people, sort of like a full view of why these things happen, and then still be in the closet.
hmm
So it was a very it was a very dangerous place to be in for us at the time, and very scary place for us to be in. But we were convinced that something needs to be said, and I think that's when our two creative minds started to merge into something bigger. And I guess you could say, uh, you know, the word you used earlier that we don't like to think of ourselves, that thing you do that when you make art,
Trailblazer.
trailblazers. I don't
Ah,
think that I don't think we set out to trailblaze. I still think in some ways we're really surprised the DL Chronicles took off the way that it did. We
mm
just knew that it was something that we wanted to see, and we wanted our voices heard. And so we thought nobody's doing it. We have to be our own voice and the voice of other men who, deal
Right.
with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think like the personal shaping, especially when of our stories, is that we weren't alone in that journey of living in the closet, especially Black and in Hollywood.
Mm.
Me and Deondray both worked in television and film. We had some roles in different TV shows and a couple of films here and there, and there was an honest concern, and not founded in reality, that as a Black male actor, Deondray was often cast as love interest on different shows.
Mm.
It's just like being out and openly gay at that time and Black in the industry would have definitely been like the nail in the coffin of a career. And so we were surrounded, unfortunately, by many other male actors in LA who were experiencing the same thing. And we all kind of lived in this bubble. We all knew who each other was, and we all supported each other and got together and created support systems for each other, but we were all dealing with that. And outside of just the industry, like Deondray said, the social, familiar, religious reasons, although these were the things we wanted to tackle with our show, they were the very things that were weighing on us.
Mm.
And I think in a way, the DL Chronicles was an exorcism for us personally, um, dealing with the very things that we were writing about, and that our friends were also experiencing and dealing with. So it was a very, very personal project. So you know what they say when they say write or create something, create what you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we did, because that was what was that's what we were living, and so it kind of came out of that lived experience.
Mm-hmm. But you guys talked about the DL Chronicles a little bit in the last segment, and your personal journeys kind of moving into wanting to tell those stories about why men are in the closet, and that was a different time period when you guys first created the show. Why do you think so many Black male gay performers are still in the closet today?
I I still think and believe that culturally, we still have some ways to go. Yes, there's definitely a lot more acceptance. That we see these images on TV, and it's made the landscape much easier. And I think the younger generations after us have been able to inherit the doors that have been opened. But I still think that, look, we're looking at right now laws being overturned, gay and lesbian, transgender individuals being targeted, Black people
Mm-hmm.
being targeted again, our voting rights being, stripped away, gerrymandering, everything that people like to say, we're past that, guys.
Mm.
And the evidence is right in front of us that we're not. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there's still many of us who still live within the communities that they are a part of. Like for us, I would say we kind of left our own communities. We left the hood. We left where the life was being lived, and then we became a part of Hollywood, right? The industry. All living in Hollywood Hills and Sherman Oaks and Glendale,
Mm.
wherever we're living. We're kind of living in a bubble, right? And that bubble is much more liberal and open and openly gay and openly proud. But when you look at places across the country, middle America, not just New York, Chicago, and the major cities, but in the rest of America, that the experience for queer people is still unfortunately dangerous
Mm.
for many of us. And I think that discomfort, that fear still lives in a large part of our community, and a lot of individuals are still, I have, someone who I know right here in Atlanta, which we consider the gay black mecca, independent, living with a basically a spouse, someone that they haven't officially married, but they've been living together for years. Highly successful individual, um, openly gay to everyone here, but is still in the closet to his family. And this
Mm,
person is 50 plus. So
right.
I would, question, wow, at this point, but talking to him, he still has this deep fear of being rejected by those he loved, namely his mother, namely his grandmother, namely his siblings. So he lives this double life between two states. And yet he's out and proud and in a loving long-term relationship, but yet to his family, he's someone else. And that for him, it's that personal fear. And I guess he
Mm,
comes from a very religious background. And, so it's so many different reasons why many of us still live in the closet. We still receive letters till this day, and messages, because the DL Chronicles is on YouTube. People can watch it online. People who didn't even know it existed when it was on television are still finding this show, and we're still receiving the letters of young men and older men saying, "This is my life today." In
mm,
2025, in 2024, in 2023. And for us, we're like, wow, as far as we feel we've come as a country and as a community, as a society, this still plagues so many people's lives. It's still uh, valid and relatable to so many people. And you would think that it wouldn't have to be, but it's more to bite than we know.
hmm.
And
You know,
also, oh, go ahead,
oh,
go
no,
ahead.
no, no, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just really quickly, I was going to add that also there's a cultural thing that we have to break through. Okay, so I was going to say, generally speaking, uh, gay actors have a hard way to go. Let's put that out there. But when you break that down to people of color, and namely Black people, there's some cultural things that we're still having to address, and that is our the emasculation of Black men is historically a thing, and
Mm,
I think we've been so trying to hold on and use our masculinity as power against, the powers that be. And we found a space in, modern day culture where Black masculinity in some ways is revered. We've also embraced the fear of Black masculinity because it means power. And anything that has come to threaten that new space in society that we've been scratching at, trying to, get to, is a problem. Namely, gay, lesbian people, or however, if you identify as queer, that's a threat to that new status that we've gained. And so
mm,
there are people who still even perpetuate that type of masculinity who are in fact gay. But
hmm.
because it has so much power, has so much gravitas, you fight tooth and nail to keep that ab- abated. And so it permeates into our music, into our films and television shows, where even now you just have Snoop Dogg come out talking about how he doesn't know how to tell his grandkids that men and that men and men are together, or two women are together and have kids. It's just the fact is you just say that
Hmm.
it's okay, kids will adapt. If you keep keeping it a secret, it becomes taboo, and then the taboo becomes a negative thing, and then you start to kind of like try to like eradicate those populations of society that you're uncomfortable with, when they're not going anywhere. They are just as natural as air. And if you just start talking to your kids like that, then the next generation will go, yeah, some men are together, some women are together, some men love men, some women love women. Women? What's the big deal? But because and Snoop is one of those people that holds that status, it threatens everything that this modern day culture is about, because we have gained this by grabbing and scratching, and now we're like, I got this. This is the
Mm.
power I hold. I'll be damned if you take this from me, gay people.
Right,
So
right, right.
that I think that is sort of why, and I think Black men understand that fully. And it doesn't matter what profession you're in, you understand that there is a very fine balance between your masculinity and success and being ousted from your community. And so we always walk that fine line, knowing very well even if you come
Yeah.
out, you know that there's going to be some loss, there's going to be some death there, and
Yeah,
Mm.
whether or not you're ready for that is the individual. So I think
yeah,
that's the part we don't talk about enough. um but yeah, that's what we're dealing with. That's huge.
yeah. And that's
And
that
that's why you
intersection with sexism and power.
Mm.
Men in general have, maintain power through creating, these hierarchies amongst gender and gender identity and gender expression. And so, like Deondray was saying, Black men have finally, not finally, but I would say, been able to create a profitable space through masculinity and often toxic masculinity, which again is just a reflection of the sexism in our society. And gay people tend to challenge those identities. And that's it's a lot of isms that have to be undone to really get to the bottom of so many of these ills. So
Mm. Mhm. So we were talking a little bit about, representation within not only in queer society, but also in Black queer society. So why is it important not only to tell our stories through a gay lens, but also through the lens of the mainstream with shows like The Shy? Why is that representation important in the mainstream as well?
think because, I think you don't always want to be talking to the choir. I mean, we know queer people, we know who we are, we know what we're about most of the time, because there are still intersectionalities that need to happen inside of our community. But outside of that political conversation, I think when you present people as humans in general, because that's all we're all living a human experience. And I think when you
Mm.
keep othering people, they stay other. And I think what The Shy does a really good job at, Lena, Justin and Jewel, shout out to our showrunners and our creator. They really understand that when you portray people as humans and you give that image out to the world, people start losing their preconceived notions of what these people are supposed to be and act like. And before you know it, you forget that they're gay and lesbian and trans.
Mm.
You start to realize, you start to be into their story. Like, why is she talking to him like that? All he was trying to do was you get a job, and whatever it is, and suddenly you've removed the other, and you just see them as humans with a human experience and needs and wants just like you. And,
Mm.
mhm.
and that goes for queer people watching about other relationships. I mean, we don't all, we have to know everybody, but we don't know everything about everybody. And it even puts us in spaces that
Mhm.
we're not normally in. And you can go outside of that about the criminal aspect of the streets of Chicago and other inner cities where people are, criminally active as a means to survive, as a means to an end, to get out of that. And I think The Shy shows that to people who would ordinarily dismiss certain pieces of society and go, wait, I understand now. He has a son to feed. There's nobody's giving him a job. It's those things that we don't want to, a lot of people will avoid certain slices of society because it makes them uncomfortable. And I think when you have art, if you do art really well, you humanize just about everybody. And it's not to say that
Mm.
everything that we show is right. Sometimes you have to show the wrong to go, wow, I wouldn't do that. But
Yeah,
also just make sure that every time you're telling a story, it's authentic, it's
yeah,
real, and it comes from a real space and perspective. And I think that does way more, in my opinion. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but it does way more to me than to do a gay show about gay people for gay people.
Mm.
And that's all good. We do that. We still do that work, but it's so much more effective when you insert them into the societies that they exist in, because we all exist amongst a greater, all, no gay person lives in this gay enclave. They have to interact with everyone else. And I think a lot of people like to pretend like we don't. But when you show us plugged in that way and you show us how we interact and move through society, we just become a part of society, which is the point.
Mm,
So
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to just when you said, mainstream, we are the mainstream. We
Culture
are
creators.
exactly as
Yes.
Black people first and foremost. We are the main vein, main artery to everything in this country. Like you said, from culture to uh, the representation. Period. You know what I mean? Not just music and the arts or whatever. Like, come on, we are the mainstream. And then when you talk about gay people, we create the mainstream. There's the
Mm.
gay people in these rooms all the time that's determining what color shirt that you find in the store this season. The so much that we contribute to why women wear lace fronts today, to big lashes. That comes out of drag. That comes out of drag. Come on. Like
Right.
it's so much that we as creatives, as artists, the artists, the thinkers, and I mean, in just traditionally a high percentage of artists happen to be amongst the queer community. It's
Mm.
always been that way. And art has shaped so much of what is considered the mainstream. So, we are the people that are creating and maintaining what folks call the mainstream, but yet we're not considered the mainstream. And I'm like, we are the mainstream. Let's get that out right here and right now. We are the mainstream.
That's right. That's right. We are the mainstream. You guys, so you guys are currently working on The Shy. What's coming up on The Shy that you can share with us that we could be excited about, and what possibly might be happening in representation? I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm seeing some chemistries between some folks, and I'm like, okay, is something getting ready to happen over here, or what's up? What's happening with The
Well,
Shy?
look, it's not too much we can say, obviously, but
Right.
I will say your instincts don't lie to you.
Hmm.
Man, I like a
Um,
catch-all phrase: expect the unexpected with the shy.
yes,
Mm,
always, always. There's always a power exchange, power struggle, power dynamic shifting that will continue.
hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yes. Okay. All
Yes.
right. We're gonna leave it there. Well, you guys are getting ready to start shooting also, right?
Yeah, we start shooting the top of 2026. We start prepping for our season this November. So it's coming, guys. Be patient. I know it's been a
Season
while, but
8.
we are coming back, season 8.
Wow. That's amazing. How did you guys get involved with the show?
Our dear friend Miss Lena, our sister, our best friend, all of the above. Lena's had a me, Quincy, and Lena have had a love affair. I don't mean that way, but
Right.
for many years, and I think we've just sort of been in the same orbits for a long time. And I think an opportunity came where Quincy and I were part of a filmmakers program of hers that she spearheaded, and we
Mm.
did a short film inside that program, and she loved it, and she thought, I want you guys to come work. We finally figured out a way to work together. So she invited us to come direct an episode of The Shy in season 5. And that was so beloved by her and the network that they came and asked us to do more episodes and produce the show. So that was a full career arc, and with in good company, because
Yes.
we
Yes.
that's our sister. So it's been great.
I love that. What's coming up next for you guys? What else do you guys have on the fire?
Well, we were honored to be included in this amazing and historic two-part documentary being produced, what was produced by the beloved Issa Rae
Yes.
for HBO, directed by Giselle Bailey, the amazing documentarian, um, by surprise. And it just so happened, and I have to say this because DeAndre just said, Lena hired us to direct our first episode of The Chi, which was season 5, episode 504. And we got a call from these producers saying, "Hey, we're interested in interviewing you guys for a documentary." And we're thinking, okay, what is this? And so we later found out that it was Issa Rae's documentary, and it was going to be on HBO. We just got to, it's called Seen and Heard. Let me say that. Seen and Heard, part 1 premieres September 9th on HBO Max. And part 2, which is the part that me and Deondray are in, is the following day, September 10th on HBO Max. We were told that this was about documentary about Black filmmakers who found a way where there was no way. Ingenuity. We were loosely knew some of the other individuals who would be in the documentary. We knew that Issa would be in it because she's also the executive producer. We knew that Lena would be in it, but we just really had no concept of how our story was going to fit in what we thought this documentary was until we saw it at the closing night of the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival. And when I tell you the overwhelming honor of being included in such a important film, a documentary about Black creatives, about the history of Black television. I mean, it just was overwhelming. We're still so grateful to be included in this historic event. So I'll let you guys see it. I won't give too much away.
And a special shout out to Lena, because I think she has something to do with it. I think that's sort of why they knew who we were to come and talk to us. So she's always looking out for her brother. So shout out to Lena for hooking us up.
All right, I love that.
Yeah, they shot a little behind the scenes of us prepping and directing episode 504 of The Chi, which is actually in the documentary. So it's really, really great.
Nice,
very rewarding of a long journey.
Right. And we still here.
Yes.
And we still here.
And we're still developing and we're still evolving, and we don't, something new around the corner every day. So, we're definitely fortunate and so grateful for all the support, Keith, of all the years, you know what I mean?
Yes,
for you to
you.
even reach out to us to do this.
Absolutely.
Just the love that we've gotten over the years and the community that's held us down. We are so grateful always.
Love that. Thank you both. Where can everybody find you on social media?
So I'm on Instagram mostly, D Gossfield, at D Gossfield. I think I'm the same on X, though I try to stay away from that platform. But I think I'm full on Facebook, Deondray Gossfield.
I'm Q LeNear, LENEAR, on all socials. I'm not on X. I left.
Me too.
But you can find me on Spill. You can find me on so many of the newer apps, especially Black-owned apps, trying to support the community.
I think I'm on Spill and Blue Sky as well. But
I'm also on Blue Sky. So nice. Q LeNear everywhere. That there's a act.
Right.
I think I'm D Gossfield everywhere except Facebook, where I'm
Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. I'm my full name.
Yes. Deondray Gossfield, Quincy LeNear-Gossfield, filmmakers extraordinaire. Thank you both for joining me on Black in the Green. You are Black in the Green Room with me, your host, Keith Underwood. And this is your spot for real talk about entertainment with entertainers, creatives, and showbiz professionals.